JVD teachers and parents are in favor of FOXY'S, says Minister. Ecosystem accountants arrive in the Virgin Islands. Stalwart educator Janet Granny Stout has passed. The TRC is to hold a public hearing. The women's football team improves. And British Prime Minister under fire for COVID policy. All this and more when 284 returns.
There's a reason you get up on a morning. A reason you pick yourself up, start the day. Maybe it's sheer grit. Maybe it's your ethics. Maybe it's because you know people like you are waiting. For people just like you. We all have our reasons, and for Republic Bank, that reason is you. Every little thing, every big thing. It's all about making a difference in your life. Because after 182 years, if it's one thing we're sure about, is that the difference is you. We're here to help.
Republic Bank, we're the one for you.
Welcome, viewers. I'm Nia Douglas, coming to you live from the beautiful British Virgin Islands. It's Wednesday, February 23rd, and thank you for joining us tonight. Starting off today's news, Deputy Premier and Minister of Education, Dr. Honorable Natalia Wheatley, has claimed that 100% of the parents and teachers of the Jost van Dyke Primary School who attended a recent meeting with him and members from his ministry are in favor of the school's temporary move to upstairs FOXY'S restaurant. The minister's comment comes after residents and parents on the sister island voiced their concerns in a recent interview with 284 News, where they expressed that they were fed up with the situation being experienced by the students. Dr. Wheatley made the comments while appearing on the Virgin Islands Party Let's Talk radio program on Tuesday, February 22nd. Take a look.
We went there and we had a meeting with the teachers and we had a meeting with parents. Parents were invited to the meet with myself and the Chief Education Officer, the Deputy Chief Education Officer, and the Education Officer responsible for governance. And 100% of the persons who gave feedback, including teachers and parents, said they were quite pleased with the environment there. In fact, they went as far as saying Minister of Health, Minister of Transportation, hurry up and fix the school because they're getting too comfortable there and they may not want to leave. And this is all very contrary to the reports that we received at this one particular media house.
Dr. Wheatley also said that the FOXY'S location was the most appropriate place for the students to house the schools temporarily. He said that other locations were considered, but none found to be better than upstairs the establishment.
So it was agreed, and the Chief Education Officer had discussions with the principal about finding a different location for the individuals to be, because most persons did not want to go back online because they were not having a great deal of success with the online, primarily because, of course, parents are working. It's very difficult when parents are working to be able to accommodate the children. In some instances, packets for the students were not being picked up, etc. So the principal and the teacher came up with a wonderful idea of finding a different location. And this location is, they considered many different places, but they ended up coming up with what was the best solution, which was going on top of an area of FOXY'S. That's a huge open space. A lot of persons never been up there, so they don't quite know. But FOXY'S has a huge open space on top of his establishment. And of course, this was discussed with teachers and parents. The principal had a meeting and everyone found it to be a favorable situation.
The Education Minister also claimed that the persons interviewed with 284 News provided untrue and misleading information during the 284 media segment. He further said that perhaps They were either not present when the principal and teachers were showing the parents the FOXY'S location, or they just did not understand the proposal.
We have one media house who happened to go over to Jas Van Dyke, and among just a few of the persons who honestly really didn't truly understand, because at the time when they were showing the parents the establishment, they weren't present. So perhaps maybe didn't understand what the situation was at the establishment, and gave some very misleading information in their broadcast. They mentioned that the students had to share bathroom space with patrons of FOXY'S, and that's not true. I went there today, and the students have their own dedicated restrooms for both male and female. Quite clean facilities, and not interacting with any of the patrons at FOXY'S at all. Based on the media reports, I expected to find Mardi Gras happening there at FOXY'S, and remember, this is from about 8 o'clock in the morning, straight up until maybe about 1 o'clock. I went there, I barely saw any patrons at Taurus at all at that particular time, and the few patrons I saw were quite far away because FOXY'S has a bar area that is far off from where the restaurant is. And I didn't see one instance where a child interacted with anyone who was a patron at FOXY'S. Not one instance. They have a separate entrance where they walk out, and they're not exposed to anyone there at all.
Now, viewers, to expand on this latest development, we have 284 News' Kamal Haynes, who covered the initial story in the studio. Kamal, do you find that your report was misleading?
Oh, thank you firstly for having me, Nia, to just explain the situation. Firstly, I totally disagree with the comments made by the Honorable Dr. Wheatley, respectfully. I was listening to the program by the minister when he made the comments last night during the VIP radio talk show program. What he said is along the lines basically to suggest that the information provided was falsified. And I have a lot of several basically positions to validate what was said regarding the information provided, which were obviously from the residents and not from myself. So to basically rubbish the claims made by the residents, I was first basically concerned, because ultimately what it does is it basically try to make somewhat of it makes the residents and the parents basically feel like their opinion does not count, to totally rubbish the claims that were made. But to delve more into what the minister would have stated, he basically dwelled on one particular aspect of what he said was said. And that was basically the part of tourists and students basically utilizing the restroom. Now, viewers, if you would take a look back at the interview, which was 36 minutes and 4 seconds, no part of that particular interview with the parents and residents was anything said of that nature. Yes, suggestion of that statement basically was said from a concerned parent behind the scenes, but I did pose the question to the minister responsible directly after my trip to Jas Van Dyke, and we'll just take a quick look at that clip basically where that was the only time in the two broadcasts that such was mentioned. So just viewers, just take a look at this firstly before we continue to talk about this. Viewers, I would have just returned from Jas Van Dyke, where I spoke to a number of residents and parents alike, basically on the issue of Jas Van Dyke Primary School. I'm here now with the Minister responsible for education, Dr. the Honorable Natalia Wheatley, who's here to address some of the concerns that was raised during obviously the long session we had on the sister island. Honorable Minister, firstly, a major concern is the fact that the school is now on the property of FOXY'S, which is in close proximity to a bar. Parents were raising that as one of the main issues too. They say they don't mind. It has nothing to do with FOXY'S. It's just a situation where the students have to basically coexist with tourists. And they have to be sharing the same restroom, etc. And that was one of the main concerns that they were raising. So first, you just speak about the situation presently regarding the Jas Van Dyke Primary School and the present situation over there. Well, viewers, I know you would have heard the questioning I would have posed to the minister, and if you check both segments of that particular Josh Van Dyke's story, you would see that that was the only time that such was mentioned. Therefore, basically invalidating the comments made by the minister, where he would have suggested that we would have even falsified information to the extent of broadcasting it. And ultimately, so information can only be falsified if not proved correct. And based off what the minister did say, is his trip on the Tuesday, which was yesterday, he basically would have had a trip to the facility, and therefore he would have seen what he saw basically, and then going off that particular assumption. But ultimately, the concerns that the teachers and the concerns, sorry, that the parents would have raised and the residents would have raised still need to be validated, because that was not the only concern that was raised. The main concern that was raised regarding the subject matter was that the school was now on upstairs FOXY'S, which is also a popular bar and restaurant for tourists. Yes, he did say that when he frequented the area on Tuesday, there was little to no tourists at all. Therefore, you know, basically ruling out what he claims, you know, would have been the picture painted. But ultimately, the main concern of the students, sorry, of these parents, more go back to that aspect of the Education Act 2004 that speaks to alcohol and schools in the areas around school property. Now, to delve into that a little more, Section 60, subsection F of the Education Act 2004 basically states that a school security officer is responsible for patrolling the school premises as a deterrent to any illegal and immoral conduct, including but not limited to gambling, drug and alcohol use, loitering, sexual misconduct, etc., etc. But the most important part of that would have been alcohol use and drugs, etc. Also, another important part of the Education Act 2004, Section 171, subsection 1, which basically states that the sale, consumption, offer, or exposure for sale of any alcoholic beverage or tobacco on the premises of any school, whether public or private or at a school function, is prohibited. Subsection 2 continues that a person who sells, consumes, offers, or exposes for sale any alcoholic beverage or tobacco on the premises of any school, whether public or private or at a school function, commits an offense and is liable on summary conviction to a fine not exceeding $1,500 or a term of imprisonment not exceeded 1 year or both. So clearly, according to this particular legislation, the Education Act 2004, it ultimately means that the present location of the school upstairs FOXY'S is a direct breach of this law. Now, viewers, I'm sure that you are aware that when a school basically is transferred to any property, that property ultimately will be considered a school. Therefore, this particular law applies. So that is the main concern that the parents and residents had in terms of the positioning of the school basically upstairs FOXY'S. Yes, it is an open area, etc., etc., etc. But the main concern was this particular law that I just would have spoken to. Now, until an amendment is made to basically adjust this, then ultimately this will still continue to be a problem, and a legal problem that is too. So that was one of the main concerns that the parents and residents that reached out to me as I was perusing the area basically, and just trying to get a comment from one or two persons. You know, obviously I would have made several attempts to see if I could have spoken to personnel from the Josh Van Dyke Primary School. I obviously reached out to the principal, but that was unsuccessful, and also reached out to another teacher, and that was unsuccessful, to basically validate the concerns that were raised. So ultimately, how else would you have been able to validate the concerns that were raised? Either through the principal or through that of the minister, which I did attempt to speak to both, and I did speak to the minister immediately after. So the concern that was raised in terms of he stating along the lines that, you know, stuff was falsified, I totally disagree with the statement, rightfully so. And ultimately, even though he did address the bathroom situation, which ultimately was not one of the main concerns raised by parents, it's like almost that was used to overshadow and basically used as a consensus to basically say that, you know, whatever they would have said would have been untrue, when the reality is, you know, it was a legitimate concern, and that should not be ignored. That's the basic you know, point of the particular story, you know, that it should not be ignored in terms of the concerns raised by the residents and the parents, and they ultimately had reasons to basically voice his concern. And one last thing I should touch on, is interacting with these parents. If it was not for that interaction, it would not have been known to you, the residents, that the school would have moved to adjust to the FOXY'S location. So ultimately, there are a lot of different varying factors that would have been presented during that interview that would have basically helped to paint a picture of what is really going on, to say what is true or what is right from wrong. Ultimately, facts obviously would have to play a role in that, and based off what the minister said, it was strictly opinions in terms of his assessment of the situation on one particular day. Now, those parents and students would have been there for several days, basically experiencing the situation because they lived there. So up until the only person that could really have had a difference of opinion that could have should have said something along that line would have been the principal, as she would have been the figurehead to oversee the situation and be able to rightfully comment on situations. But ultimately, Nia, I do disagree that the information was falsified, as the minister did say, and ultimately, the concerns that were raised by the residents are actual concerns that they really need answers to, and it's just more than just about tourists and students sharing the bathroom, because ultimately that was not the narrative that was shared during my segment with the interview.
Well, thank you so much for expanding on that, Kamal. In other news, the government has released a series of photos chronicling the arrival of a two-member team, from the Economics for the Environment Consultancy Limited, EFTEC, on Monday, February 21st. The government said Mr. Jake Couilleur and Ms. Sophie Newpower are featured on the tour around Tortola with marine biologist Mr. Mervyn Hastings. Mr. Couilleur and Ms. Newpower is said to have viewed key environmental sites, witnessed the natural settings and local culture that they have been observing for the past couple of years in support of the development of the Virgin Islands' first national ecosystem account. The Ministry of Natural Resources, Labor and Immigration says that the team will conduct ecosystem accounting workshops with local technocrats before the official handover of the 2020 ecosystem accounts this Friday, February 25th. Up next, stalwart educator Janet Granny Stout has passed. This story and more after a quick word from our sponsors.
Is business slow, cash flow down, hosting an upcoming event? We can help. Advertise with 284 Media and take your business or event to the next level by enhancing your present marketing and messaging strategies. Allow our team of experts to create a personalized ad that sets your business apart from all the rest. This could be your business or event. So, what are you waiting for? Contact our marketing team at 284media@cctbvi.com. Advertising with us works.
Live stream cable TV is here with CCT Live. Access over 80 channels that you can watch either at home or when you're on the go. And don't worry about missing your favorite series, sports, news, and local programming. Rewind and watch in your own time. Come to CCT today and ask about our 1-month free trial offer. CCT Live. Bring it home.
Brilliant Hands and Minds Tutoring Services, one-on-one tutorials in math and English, intense homework assistance, academic enrichment, school projects, effective communication and public speaking development, sign language for adults and children on Saturdays only. Registered with the Virgin Islands High School Certificate Program, Brilliant Hands and Minds can help you too. Offering intense curriculum-based training to help you or your loved ones get their high school diploma. It's time to make your family's education a #1 priority. Hurry, space is limited. Brilliant Hands and Minds Learning Center. We are the trained education professionals.
The wait is over! CCT Fire is here! Experience ultra-fast downloads, seamless streaming, and even more reliable connectivity on an all-new fire-blazing super-fast CCT Fiber network. CCT Fire, bring it home and upgrade today.
When one thinks of stalwart contributors made within education in the Virgin Islands, one of the many names that come to mind is Mrs. Janet Granny Stout. Mrs. Janet Stout, the wife of the late Raphael Stout, passed away on February 5th, 2022, at the age of 84. She was survived by 4 children: Elvin Skinny Stout, Margaret Winky Stout, Wayne Stout, and Marcia Stout, along with many grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Mrs. Stout, affectionately known as Granny to the entire Virgin Islands community, began her formal education at the St. George's School in Roadtown. In 1984, she was enrolled at the secondary school. She graduated in 1953, the same year that the BVI Secondary School became known as the BVI High School. Mrs. Stout joined the teaching profession in the mid-50s, wrote the teacher's exam, and also obtained a Leeward Islands teacher's certificate. In 1916, Mrs. Stout was put to test as she performed dual roles of secretary to the principal, Mr. Carlisle Stout, and that of a teacher. Mrs. Stout spent a year at the Southampton School of Education in England, where she upgraded her modern mathematics. 5 years later, after her return, she was promoted to head of the mathematics department at the BVI High School, a position she had for many years. In the early 70s, the Student Council was constituted, and Mrs. Stout was one of the members of the executive body. One of their projects was the establishment of the Tuck Shop, which grew from a small refreshment center to a canteen which provided nutritional meals for students at minimal cost. Mrs. Stout retired in 1995, but she continued teaching until 2000, and in 1997 she was assigned to the role of assistant principal until 2000. The year 2000 marked the end of Mrs. Stout's stellar career as an educator in the Virgin Islands educational system. However, despite retiring in 2000, she continued to run the Tuck Shop until it closed its doors in 2008. Mrs. Stout was also very active in her church. She was part of the Episcopal Church in the women's group for 2 terms. She served on the vestry as a Sunday school teacher, a reader and the church treasurer. She is considered by many as a national hero who lived a life of selfless service and contributed many 50 years plus in education in the Virgin Islands. In other news, the Telecommunications Regulatory Commission, TRC, will be hosting a public hearing on March 1st, 2022. The TRC, which holds the responsibility of regulating the telecommunications sector of the Virgin Islands, says that the public hearing will be held at Maria's by the Sea Hotel at 9 a.m. The hearing is in relation to the proposed adoption of amendments to unitary licenses, as contained in the notice to adopt the directive on the amendment of unitary licenses issued by the Commission on December 30th, 2021. Participation at the public hearing will be limited to the topic of unitary licenses and any interested third party that submitted a relevant comment or objection on the directive on the amendment of unitary licenses to the Commission. The Commission is also presently in the process of considering applications for renewal of several licenses for the operation of a telecommunications network providing telecommunications. Up next, the BVI women's football team improves their overall performance. Stay tuned.
So you're saying I can ask this cat any question?
The cat is connected to the computer. You just type in the question, it will read his mind. There the answer comes.
You're the man! I've been looking for this for weeks.
You value traditions. You value music. You value education. Family. I love you. Service.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Love. Life. At Popular, we're committed to you and everything our community values. For the things you value the most, count on us. Popular.
A show poised to help guide modern-day men into 21st century distinguished gentlemen. It doesn't always involve suits and, bow ties, but raw, real-life lessons that translate to grounded, community-minded, well-rounded men. This season, I'm taking you on an entirely different journey, from chefs to dancers, philanthropists, communications specialists, and much more. I'm heading outside in the field to share the journey of some of the BVI's best and brightest men. From East End to West End, Bojangara, Jackson Lake, not forgetting Anegada. Our Virgin Islands gentlemen are doing the damn thing, and I'm so proud. Get ready to reason, reflect, and redirect. We are the movers and shakers of this generation, and we ain't afraid to show it. The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman, Season 3 by yours truly, Ron Grant, raising a generation of greatness.
Thanks for sticking with us. In some international news, it was announced on Sunday that Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II has tested positive for COVID-19. The news has taken Britain and the world by storm, eliciting well wishes, political commentary, and a few satirical remarks as well. The announcement has also cultivated a host of new criticisms towards Britain's Prime Minister Boris Johnson, who recently ended all COVID restrictions in the UK. Buckingham Palace said, Her Majesty is experiencing mild cold-like symptoms, but expects to continue light duties at Windsor over the coming week. She will continue to receive medical attention and will follow all appropriate guidelines. Following this announcement, the Prime Minister tweeted, I'm sure I speak for everyone in wishing Her Majesty the Queen a swift recovery from COVID and a rapid return to vibrant good health. The tweet comes along with a whirlwind of heavy criticism of the Prime Minister's relaxing of COVID-19 protocols in the country. At Liam Young tweets, the Queen's positive COVID test was picked up during regular testing, something Boris Johnson is scrapping in his big announcement tomorrow. At Kevin Maguire tweets, the Queen tests positive for COVID as Boris Johnson prepares to end England's COVID laws. Bad timing for a reckless PM. In spite of these criticisms, the Prime Minister still announced on Monday several plans to end all legal COVID-19 restrictions. Well, that's it for today's news roundup. Be sure to follow us for daily news updates at 284media.com and like us on Facebook at 284media and 284BVI on Instagram and Twitter. I'm Nia Douglas. I'll see you again tomorrow as we deliver your daily dose of local, regional, and international content. 284 News, your source for honest and impartial news, right here on 284 Media. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Have a great evening.
So you're saying I can ask this cat any question?
The cat is connected to the computer. You just type in the question, it will read his mind. There the answer comes.
You're the man! I've been looking for this for weeks.
Brilliant Hands and Minds Tutoring Services, one-on-one tutorials in math and English, intense homework assistance, academic enrichment, school projects, effective communication and public speaking development, sign language for adults and children on Saturdays only. Registered with the Virgin Islands High School Certificate Program, Brilliant Hands and Minds can help you too. Offering intense curriculum-based training to help you or your loved ones get their high school diploma. It's time to make your family's education a #1 priority. Hurry, space is limited. Brilliant Hands and Minds Learning Center. We are the trained education professionals.
Father Jesus, that line here long like church service.
Alright, you enjoy the rest of it then. Next customer line, please. Wait, hold on a second.
Yes, Sonny boy, come, yes, Sonny.
Good morning.
Good morning, Sonny boy. Over there. You must have cut fun people.
It's okay, I'll take care of it.
What? No man to take care of me.
How may I assist you?
Yes.
You want top of power?
You want top of power?
Join the prepaid party with CCT and enjoy more affordable data plans, more top-up promotions, more savings with hero bundles, and more value for your money each and every Tuesday with Top Up Turn Up Tuesday. Visit a CCT store today or anywhere CCT Top Up is sold and top up your phone.
5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. You want top of power?
The wait is over. CCT Fire is here. Experience ultra-fast downloads, seamless streaming, and even more reliable connectivity on an all-new fire-blazing super-fast CCT Fiber network. CCT Fire. Bring it home and upgrade today.